Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. It's Saturday, February 26, 2022. What does that mean? Well, that's right, Saturday. A weekly recap of all the top stories throughout the week in one convenient location. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Do I need to put on a tinfoil hat for this, or is this just a little too weird of a coincidence? Okay, not a big conspiracy theorist. However, having done this job for as long as I have as a criminal defense attorney, sometimes you just realize that wasn't a coincidence. And so one has to wonder, Jean-Luc Brunel, a French modeling agent who is close friends with that guy named Jeff and Ghislaine Maxwell, was found, get this, hanged in his jail cell early Saturday morning. Coincidence? The manner of death is, of course, eerily similar to the man named Jeff, who was found hanged in his cell back in 2019. Brunel's lawyer released a statement shortly after he was discovered, saying that his decision was not guided by guilt, but by a deep sense of injustice. Brunel became a giant in the modeling industry due to his ability to scout supermodels, most notably Chris Turrington and Mia Djokovic. In 2004, Brunel opened a show in Miami called MC2 Modeling Agency. The man named Jeff reportedly invested $1 million to launch the agency. Virginia Giuffre, or Virginia Roberts, claimed that the man named Jeff tracked her to Brunel when she was a minor, and also alleged that the agency was used by the two men to traffic underage girls into the country. French officials arrested Brunel in December of 2020 for the alleged sexual assaults of a minor over the age of 15. Paris prosecutors released a statement after the arrest, saying that Brunel is alleged to have committed these crimes in connection with or on behalf of that man named Jeff. Now, Brunel and that man named Jeff fell out after the man named Jeff served time behind bars as part of his sweetheart plea deal in Florida's prosecution back in 2008. Brunel would later file a lawsuit against that guy named Jeff, alleging that Jeff notoriety caused his modeling agency to fail, and that man named Jeff managed to evade service of that lawsuit for years. But the case finally started moving forward in 2019, just as that man named Jeff found himself back behind bars. Now, after that guy named Jeff died in his own prison cell, Brunel ultimately moved to dismiss the lawsuit with prejudice. Brunel was also a key player in the ongoing civil case against that guy named Jeff's estate in the Virgin Islands. Prosecutors had served him and his modeling agency with subpoenas in the case. Now, let's talk about this really quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Man named Jeff dies in his jail cell when the cameras just happened to go off. And now this Brunel guy winds up dead by hanging himself. And guess what happened? That's right. The cameras just happened to be off. Like I said, I don't think I should be adjusting my tinfoil hat here, but it really makes you go, just saying. Let me know what you think. Just a coincidence? Or something more nefarious? Let me know in the comments below. Next on the docket, does the Santa Fe District Attorney Mary Carmack Altweiss, is she on board with Alec Baldwin's story that he never pulled the trigger in the shooting on set of the movie Rust? Well, the DA made the statement, you can pull the hammer back without actually pulling the trigger and without actually locking it. So you pull it back part way, it doesn't lock, and then if you let it go, the firing pin can hit the primer of the bullet. Baldwin insists that he did not pull the trigger, saying in an interview in December of 2021 on ABC News, I would never point a gun at anyone and pull the trigger at them, never. The DA had her investigators perform a test in her office to see if a mechanical malfunction could have resulted in an accidental firing. The result, she says, the hammer could have caused the gun to discharge a bullet. Now, some experts have claimed that there's no way the gun could fire without pulling the trigger, but the DA's own analysis is critical given she's mulling over whether to charge anyone with criminal negligence. And really, the only opinion that really matters in this particular case, when it comes to a criminal case, would be that of the district attorney. She's the one that has prosecutorial discretion to decide whether the case should go forward, even if she thinks the case can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. If she thinks that she cannot prove her case beyond a reasonable doubt, she has an ethical obligation not to bring those charges forward. Obviously, we'll give Mr. Baldwin the presumption of innocence like we do for everyone, but I may want to draw your attention to a video that we put up last week where I just happened to have from my collection a firearm, a vintage firearm during that time, and we walk through how you can pull it back. But in that particular instance, the example we give, you can't let the hammer go home unless you actually pull the trigger. Take a look. I think it's worth watching. Well, prosecutors argued that the 15-year-old who is accused of carrying out a shooting at a Michigan high school where 4 students were killed should remain in adult jail pending his trial because his mental maturity is well beyond his age. Now, due to the seriousness of the crimes he's facing, he's been held at the Oakland County Jail. And on Tuesday, prosecutors argued during a court hearing that he should remain in that jail instead of being transferred to the Oakland County Children's Village, where they hold juvenile offenders. Prosecutors said that his journal, which Crumbley wrote in, details about the type of gun he would need, who the victims would be, and he even wrote his plan to surrender at the end of the shooting so he could see the pain and suffering that he caused. Crumbley is under constant supervision and is monitored every 15 minutes by an officer, according to his public defender, Paulette Mitchell Lofton. Now, Miss Lofton said that leading up to the shooting, Crumbley was hallucinating, seeing things and hearing voices. She also said that Crumbley asked his parents to see a therapist because he was not sleeping, he was extremely anxious, and not eating. Miss Lofton argued that the isolation in jail is not beneficial and actually harms her client. The prosecution argued quite the opposite. He's currently allowed to watch television, has access to a tablet to communicate with his friends and family, is allowed to play games, and has access to books, has phone privileges, receives mail, and has access to the jail's commissary, where he has an account and can purchase food items. Now, Miss Lofton argued back that her client does not have the tablet with him in his cell and that he does have access to a phone but does not have the phone numbers of any of his relatives, so he cannot utilize that phone whatsoever. Currently, there are no juveniles at the Children's Village with murder charges, according to the manager, Heather Calcaterra. Now, Miss Calcaterra also said she would be concerned about Crumbley's safety in the juvenile detention center and thinks that he might become a target. Well, the Oakland County Circuit Judge Kwame Rowe is expected to announce his decision next week whether Crumbley will be allowed to transfer to the juvenile facility. The alleged shooter faces 1 count of terrorism causing death, 4 counts of first-degree murder, 7 counts of assault with intent to commit murder, and 12 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. He has pled not guilty, and his attorneys have filed notice that they plan to use an insanity defense at his trial. We'll let you know what the judge does. If I was a betting man, I would say that, well, Mr. Crumbley is going to stay in the adult detention facility because, well, when you commit big boy acts, you get to go to big boy jail, and then you're going to go to big boy prison. So make yourself comfortable. First, the husband of the cinematographer shot and killed by Alec Baldwin blasted the actor for shifting blame and making himself sound like a victim, despite having been the one to pull the trigger. Now, Matt Hutchins, widow of Helena Hutchins, said, and hearing him blame Helena in the interview and shift responsibility to others and seeing him cry about it, I just feel like we are really supposed to feel bad about you, Mr. Baldwin. Mr. Hutchins, who was married to Helena for 14 years, said watching the interview of Baldwin made him angry because he was talking about his wife's death so publicly and detailed, then does not accept any responsibility after basically describing him killing her. Now, in an interview in December, Baldwin said someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but it's not me. Hutchinson hit back saying the idea that the person holding the gun and causing it to discharge is not responsible is absurd to him. Mr. Hutchins also said the gun safety was not the only problem on the set of Rust. There were a number of industry standards that were not practiced, and there's multiple responsible parties. Now, the widower, who has a 9-year-old son named Andros with his late wife, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Baldwin on February 15th. The suit, which alleges at least 15 safety practices that were disregarded on the set, argues a wider cost-cutting culture ultimately led to Helena's death. We'll continue to see, and we brought you the story the other day, that the district attorney there in Santa Fe apparently is kind of believing Mr. Baldwin. So there may not be any criminal charges, and obviously we'll give Mr. Baldwin the presumption of innocence, but the civil side, it's a much lower standard, simply a preponderance of the evidence. Some more people that are going to trial. James and Jennifer Crumbley, the parents of the alleged Oxford High School shooter, Ethan Crumbley, will go to trial in connection to the November 30th tragedy. The two have been charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter following accusations that they did not heed warnings that their son could carry out the violent act and that they supplied him with the gun he allegedly used. No one's charging him with actually being provided a gun. Oh, that's right. That's not a crime, is it? Nope. And when he takes it without their permission, he should be held responsible for that. Anyway, the Rochester District Court Judge Julie Nicholson's decision to go to trial comes after a 2-day hearing in which she heard evidence and determined that there was enough to go to the circuit court. The trial start date has not yet been set or announced. 5 witnesses testified during the preliminary hearing. 3 of them were Jennifer Crumbley's former co-workers. Her former supervisor, Andrew Smith, testified that shortly after the shooting, she sent him a text saying, "Oh my God, Andy, he's going to kill himself. He must be the shooter." Then pleaded with him not to fire her, writing, "Please don't judge me for what my son did." You know what? That should be the theory and theme of the defense case. Please don't judge me for what my son did. Anyway, Sean Hopkins, a school guidance counselor, also testified, saying he met with the Crumbleys after suspecting Ethan was showing suicidal ideations. Hopkins said the parents weren't friendly or showing care to the student, adding that they did not greet or touch him. Oh, really? Because your teenagers want to be hugged in school? Wow. Maybe that counselor should be charged as well, because he didn't foresee the future either. Now, though Hopkins recommended the 15-year-old get immediate mental health treatment, the parents said they had to work. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. Armchair quarterback, I get it's a tragedy, but come on. Why not charge criminally everyone at the school as well? They've been sued civilly. Why not go criminally as well? Let's go for it. Now, defense attorney Shan Smith argued that there was no reason to predict and foreshadow that there would be a school shooting. She continued, but at the end of the day, the law doesn't care about what kind of parents they are. It cares whether we knew their son was going to commit murder. That's the law. James and Jennifer Crumbley did not know that a murder would be committed. Anyway, we'll just have to wait and see. Our system is based on people being held responsible for what they do. That's why the government has to prove their mental intent, ladies and gentlemen. We've talked about this before. Don't get me wrong. The Crumbley kid, guilty, right? Although we'll give him the presumption of innocence, but he did kind of confess and all that good stuff. But you know what I'm saying? It's not a whodunit. It's simply a question of NGRI, which is why they've gone NGRI or will go NGRI. The reality of it is our legal system is based upon punishing conduct of the person that did it or people that contributed, like aided or assisted or abet, not just being bad parents, ladies and gentlemen. Something to think about, I think. I think if you really want to be intellectually honest with that, I think it's tough to say we need to hold the parents responsible. But the county court where this started to hear the preliminary hearing, that judge is not going to throw the case out. They're going to let it go up, have the jury decide. We'll see how it goes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long week. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.